So we're live. We just chat together for a few seconds, but I like to do the socializing on the stream because it's kind of like who we are and stuff like that. Always excited to have Claire. I think people say that on podcasts and stuff, but it's really true because the thing with Claire, what we're going to be talking about today is sort of Claire somehow had a eureka moment that when I listened to it after a while, I was like, wow, that's an original thought. Like, you absolutely need religion for nationalism to happen. Then I started reading your book, and it's like you didn't. I couldn't see the bit where you explained why you need religion. You went straight to your options are Christianity, Islam, Judaism. It's like, so we're going to be talking about that. Maybe I didn't read it properly. Go on.
Well, because I'm just saying, everyone whinges about the Jews, the Christians who have this global empire, the Muslims who are supposed to have the best religion. They go on about the Jews like they've always got one over us. Why do they always win? Why do we always lose?
I don't know if anybody thinks like that.
So I kind of thought that was assumed. Like,
okay, interesting.
They
interesting.
always win with their religion.
See, a lot of I think the assumption. Maybe I come from like a. Being brought up in an atheistic London, which is not entirely true, but it's kind of got the atheistic culture, even though a lot of people have a feeling, there's probably a God and something like that, but they don't act that way. That I think the assumption is religion is useless, it's not even an option. But for you in your book, it's like they're the only options. And I think maybe you have a lot of insights that I think we're going to try to discuss and explain, the really important ones. And I'll probably be opening up your book if you want
yes,
on the screen so we can find bits, so we can talk about, you can clarify to me your thought process through the book possibly. Let's just see how it goes. Okay, so I am trying to be more precise, and by precise I mean just reading certain notes, and relatively boring way of doing it, but let's just see. Okay, so does religion, okay, let's see, is this big enough? Tell me if it's big enough. Whoops, wrong way around. Is that readable, do you think, on your screen? Or what are you looking at, a tablet or a laptop?
Yes, I can read it.
Okay, cool. Okay, here we go. So I'm a Muslim. I do happiness classes, for everybody who doesn't know. I do happiness classes for non-Muslims. Actually, largely non-Muslims. Unfortunately, I think the Muslims born into Islam don't reflect on it. They think they have a very dry understanding. They're not very spiritual. I think they're very mechanical. So that's why I end up largely talking to non-Muslims. So anyway, here we go. And they're the future. I think they're the future, the West of the future. But that's a different topic. Does religion bind a nation? I'll start with a verse of the Holy Quran on which I'm getting my ideas, and I think is the reason why religion is this necessary for nationalism or to bind a nation. Here we go. So, and hold fast all together, this is a verse of the Holy Quran, all together by the rope of Allah, and be not divided, and remember the favor of Allah, which He, and Allah just means God, everybody's God, not just Islamic God or something. Remember the favor of Allah, which He bestowed upon you when you were enemies, and He united your hearts in love, so that by His grace you became as brothers or sisters, and you were on the brink of a pit of fire, and He saved you from it. Thus does Allah explain to you His commandments, that you may be guided. Quran chapter 3 verse 104. Some people have a different numbering system, but I do make these documents available in a pinned comment, so you can just click and you'll go to the verse of the Holy Quran in question. I'm going to point out 3 ideas from this verse of the Quran. Religion has 3 qualities that make it the only thing that can bind a nation together. one. It is from God, the Father of us all. Some Muslims don't even like that. It sounds too Christian, but it's the idea that it's a shared connection, our shared creator. Okay, so his rules have authority and they unite us under some of the words are terrible, incorrect, but anyway, unite us under a single family of brothers and sisters. Any human idea does not have that authority. So that's one reason why religion has a special power. Number two, its ideas are comprehensive enough to apply to all people and situations. So you might say, oh yeah, you can get together under conservatism or something, or the brownies, this club or that club. They've limited ideas. They're not comprehensive enough to apply to all people, I think. And thirdly, its ideas have been shown to work, having been tried and tested over millennia. So families, all sorts of ideas in Islam, they seem to work, and they work today better than the atheistic ones. So that's all I've got to say, really. Those are the reasons why I think. And by the way, it kind of occurred to me here in Jordan that your idea was so great, because when I look around me, I see people who are really nationalistic, and not the European brand of nationalism, which is hate everybody else. It's a really different kind of nationalism. Did you see the video I sent you by Mummy in Amman, the YouTuber? I sent you the link, but maybe you didn't see it. But did you remember I sent you a link? Never mind.
Yes, but I watched so many videos. I'm a bit vague now about what I have seen and what I haven't seen.
Okay. If anybody who wants to know about Jordan, I'm not sure if she still makes videos, but she is really good at picking out all the things I love about Jordan, all the tiny things, all the funny things that Jordanians get up to. She's a British lady. She came over to Jordan. She married somebody. She wasn't first a Muslim. Now she's a Muslim, and not forced at all. In fact, her husband didn't even know that she was researching into Islam, and she became a Muslim kind of through her own research. But the point is, one of the things she talks about is Jordanian nationalism, which is a really interesting kind of nationalism where it's really inclusive. Like it's not like, first of all, the best bit about it is everybody's into it. Everybody's like really, it just binds everybody together. I went to a graduation party, and they were singing like British people don't sing unless they're on alcohol. These people, zero alcohol, singing for hours in the craziest way. Like they were putting their uncles on their shoulder. It was nuts. I don't know. Did you see any of the videos? I put all of my.
I think I have a memory of me starting, and then I got distracted, and then I didn't finish it.
Anyway, they were nuts for hours until midnight, right? And non-stop singing, and they were all songs that everybody knew, like the country's famous songs and the country's famous food and the country's famous coffee, and everything this is how we do it. And it's not pushed on anybody, but everybody enjoys it because it connects it. So like, I like doing it, even though I hate their coffee. It's not like normal coffee. It's like, I think they call it Turkish coffee. It's like this much and it's really bitter or something, right? But the rest of their food is really good, right? But the point is, I'll still drink the bitter coffee because it's just so connecting. And I haven't had their nationalism ideals enforced on me. I didn't have to take, like in England, you have to take a test to be British or something. What are the British ideals, which are nothing anymore, I think. It just works, but it's all based on Islam. The root of it is based on God. And I was having a lovely chat with another guy, and he said it to me even without like me pushing it or something. He said, like, it's all based on Islam, and everybody knows it because how is it based on Islam? It's basically on the idea that we're all brothers and sisters. We have one creator. We're all connected. In Arabic, they say, like, if you want to talk to, if the word for human beings is basically Bani Adam, it means children of Adam. Like, we're all part of the one family, the human family. You know, if you want to talk to a girl, or not, like, just say, a girl or whatever, or brother or something, you say like somebody, let's say somebody younger than you, just say Banat, which is my daughter. So do you know what I mean? Like the stranger, that's how you relate. And that's part of the Islamic idea, the God idea. And then all the nationalism comes from that. Even obedience to the government comes from that. In the Quran, it says, obey Allah, the messenger, and those in authority over you. So it's so, without that, it would just disappear. Without God, without Islam, it would just disappear. Those are my thoughts. That's what I noticed so strongly here in Jordan. And they've got sort of beautiful kind of nationalism. So you explain, why do you think, because it seems you only limit nationalism through religion in your book. It's only based on Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. Nothing else got any chance. Why is that? What made you think like that?
Because if I were shopping around for religion, I would have to choose.
But why religion?
The most
You've already
God.
jumped to religion. Why did religion even come into the picture when it comes to nationalism or uniting people? Or am I just I let you talk.
I've noticed about, the British nationalists, they'd always whinge about the Jews, and then they started whinging about the Muslims. So it made me think, well, what have these Jews and Muslims got that these, British nationalists haven't got? It's religion.
I see.
And they're not even Christian. You see, that's the other thing. They're so obviously not Christian.
So it became apparent because it's like the thing you whinge about is your biggest enemy, isn't it? You don't whinge about something that's insignificant. So I suppose that's why you came to this conclusion that if they're whinging about Islam, Islam must be a big thing to be whinging about, and a serious alternative for them to be whinging about, I suppose. Is that the thought process, or what?
Yes, and before the Muslims arrived, it's just so, Christianity is such an anti-Semitic religion that, we know about the Holocaust and how anti-Semitic Christian Europeans would be. It's just they've got this convenient scapegoat. Anything goes wrong, it's always those Jews, and then with mass immigration, they had Muslims to blame, and I guess Muslims would be the most frightening group of immigrants because they don't seem to mind so much about the Hindus or the Chinese, because I guess they fit in a bit more because they haven't got their religion saying, oh, you can't eat pork, you can't drink alcohol, you mustn't gamble. It's Muslims who have this identity.
Yeah, and as I was saying, they're kind of insignificant as an opponent or an alternative. Like, if, let's say, the Muslims didn't fit in, but they didn't have any families and they weren't doing anything else, they would be so insignificant that you wouldn't care what they were doing, I suppose.
Yeah, I suppose it's the sheer numbers, and then they have this.
And the sheer numbers are for a reason, because it works.
Yes. So, and then of course the people who are having children are Muslims. Pew Research, says things like, oh, number of Muslims increasing, number of Christians decreasing. And I came across this really interesting statistic about Muslims kind of lowering the rate of illegitimacy in London, because otherwise there'd be even more illegitimate people, because Muslims, tend to believe in marriage before having children. So that's another interesting statistic. And of course, with the demographics of London, if you want to become mayor of London, you have to make sure you have the Muslim vote in, or you'll find like Zach Goldsmith, you'll be out on your ear, because the Tories, because of Sadiq Khan, they said thought, well, we won't worry about the Muslims, we'll try and get the Sikhs, and
because they're the most united group. They could get together hundreds of people, whereas British people, they're all over the place.
Yeah, you can't even find them. It's like, I guess if you were a Democratic politician, you'd schmooze a few mosque elders and then get the mosque elders to tell their
That's right.
congregation to vote for you, and that's it.
That's it. Like you can like if you talk to imagine the Ahmadiyya Khalifa was convinced of this party, like millions of people just suddenly like, yeah, we're voting for Party X. That's it. End of discussion. Do you know what I mean? With the Muslims, you could just go to a few mosques and the Imam would say, "Yep, you're voting conservative," and everybody go, "Yeah, we trust you. We'll go conservative." But with British people, I think there's, I don't know, bit
Well,
fickle,
you can't even
all
find
over the
them
place.
because, I mean, you think the community centre for British people is a pub, but then, they wouldn't even be registered or, whatever.
And pubs are dying out, and it's a terrible. It's not even. You can't even talk in a pub. They're so noisy. I don't know. Terrible. Yeah, and they're drunk. What are you going to teach them?
Yeah.
When you're in a pub, of course. Okay. Yeah. All right. So religion. You came across it because everybody is complaining about it, and made you realize these religions are the only thing they're talking about or complaining about, therefore the only serious alternative. But after that, you must have had some thoughts about what makes religion so powerful that it is maybe are we jumping the gun? Is it true, do you think? Is there any alternative, let's say, to religion for binding a whole nation together?
Well, I mean, if you look at history, you will see, particularly Roman history, and also the etymology of the word religion, which comes from the Latin religare, which means to bind. And just those words mean, well, bind what? Bind society, obviously. So the Romans saw religion for that very practical purpose.
And that's why they adopted Christianity, wasn't it? By purpose, for that very practical reason.
Yes, because I mean, obviously they didn't do it for fun because they just imagined the kind of situation you get to before you will even think about changing a religion. Everything must already be falling apart for you to even think that, because of the resistance and people just shouting at you and saying over my dead body and all that sort of thing. So it will kind of almost be a sort of civil war situation for people to do that. And but anyway, for in the case of Constantine, he realized he had to give these Romans a religion, because when he was growing up and all the disorder of Rome, the wars and the year of the 5 emperors and all these warlords basically trying to become emperor of Rome, and then he had the story, I saw a vision and I won this war because I saw Jesus or something like that. I forget the details now, and I guess the whole idea is that if you give people a narrative that they like, which is an afterlife, or some idea of justice in this world or the next, then they might just want to believe in it and do what is necessary to show that they believe in it.
Okay. So there's 2 types of nationalism I've seen. There's a positive type, which is this is what we stand for. And there's the other kind that I see in Europe, which is this is what we hate, which is we hate foreigners. We hate it's just scapegoatism, right? But it's really fickle. It doesn't really make you feel good about your life, right? Because actually psychologists like Viktor Frankl will tell you need meaning. Meaning is not derived from hating stuff. It's like standing for something good and positive, right? That's what religion does. And then if you can get together around that, and like we're all brothers and sisters, we're all trying to make the world a better place. We're like a massive thing that family does. That religion does is family, bring people together as family. Like this is what we stand for.
Yeah, but these Europeans, when they were white and Christian, they were fighting each other like crazy. So they can't blame the Jews or the Muslims.
They were fighting each other.
Reformation, World War I, World War II, the Napoleonic Wars. They were fighting each other, but with or without the Jews, and So there's
Okay,
just something about Christianity that makes them fight each other,
interesting.
forget us.
Which is very weird because, like, the bit of, if you follow Jesus, he'd be like, if somebody hits you on one cheek, offer the other. It's very interesting that it makes them fight.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
they don't do it. I mean, that's why it's so hypocritical.
they
That
don't
all
follow
these sort of,
Christianity. I mean,
yeah, they don't do
yeah,
it. I mean, they go on their crusades and slay everybody and take their stuff, and
yeah,
then pretend they're meek and mild.
which is exactly the opposite of what Jesus did when he went to a temple and stuff like that. It's like, stop buying and selling stuff in the temple. Yeah. Um,
And
okay.
this hypocrisy that has extended for centuries has obviously, done something to their minds and their character, and that's why they can't really see the error of their ways. I mean, maybe it's because it's like, well, Christianity has acquired 3 global empires and we're boss, and therefore, Christianity must be the best religion because no other religion has taken over the world like what
Okay,
the
let me ask
Spanish.
you this, since we're talking about the British Empire, because at that point in time, I wasn't really around when, people were really, they must have been proud of their country because they had a song, was it Rule Britannia,
Britannia rules the
yeah.
waves.
I think there must have been a lot more nationalistic then, I imagine, and had something more to be proud of. Now, is the theory, and I have this theory, or I have this feeling, that it was religion that bound them at the core? Because what they did, if you look at like their paintings and things, they were selling Christianity to the Africans as, like there you'd have a picture of an African on the floor and thank you for the Bible, right? Okay, but I'm saying this is a positive thing. They were exporting civilization. And what was this civilization based on? God's law. And actually, because it was actually useful, get married, behave, dress properly, dress modestly. That's Christianity. Like Mary, mother of Jesus, would have dressed, as you see in the models and whatever,
Yeah, you're
right?
supporting
This,
marriage.
right. The point is that okay, this is my point. When the British were strong Christians, they actually felt like they stood for something. And when they stood for something, they felt strong and they were ready to export it to the world because they knew they were better than the rest of the world in some way, right? That made them better and if you stand for something, you work hard as well. That's what you have the immigrants who are coming into England. They seem to be more motivated because they have some sort of religion and they feel like they stand for something. And that's actually how human beings are built. When you've got meaning, like Nietzsche said, if you've got a why, you can get through anyhow. So if you have a religion, you can get through a lot more. So I think at the heart of what made the British Empire strong was Christianity. And I'm a Muslim saying that. What do you think about that theory?
Oh, I would agree because they felt that it was a kind of destiny, and because they obeyed God, then God favored them with empire, and that there was even this thing called British Israelism. So the British thought of themselves as Jews, and that the real Jews, they were kind of not doing it. They didn't have empire, and the song Jerusalem, this idea that Jesus might have, come to England and walked around, and that song, based on the poem by William Blake. That goes da 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 da. I can't.
Yeah.
That one.
England's green fields, whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So I like this question. And what now? I'm guessing like, okay, so what? Now what? What are you going to do about it? And I think I'm all about practical. And I suppose that comes back to your book. Shall we put your book on the screen? The what
Yes,
now
please.
answer. Okay, so I'll quickly click, and then I'll put on the screen. Going to Where is it? Present, share. Maybe you could guide us through what shall we look at. Oh no, wait a sec. Let me, because if I'm just sharing a tab, it won't work. Okay. So, hey Jay, thank you. You're not too tired from the last stream. Excellent to have you here. And I know there's two qualities I love about Jay. One is very spiritual, and I think you're very nationalistic. So you're perfect for this discussion. Am I right? You care about nationalism.
I do, and I was interested at the start where you said that nothing binds the nation together as much as the religion. True, I guess, when you look at the West and a lot of the countries and the fall of Christianity mixed in with globalism or whatever they call it. But yeah, true, really true, agree.
Great. So, okay, this is my library. This is her book, Claire's book. This isn't how Claire looks, by the way. Or is that how you look with a scarf on, by any chance?
I wish.
No, maybe not. Okay, that's a laugh. It's not true.
I would marry then.
It could be. You never know with a bit of mascara.
I would.
What would you say, Joy? You would marry her, yeah?
Yeah.
You remarry. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you get a lot of views if you made a proposal and Claire said yes right now.
Or even if I said no.
Well, she might say yes.
It wouldn't be that exciting.
No,
She used to say no. Anybody can say no.
Never to
All right.
say yes.
Okay. Anyway. All right. Never mind. No yes then. So why don't I go? Is there anything that you recommend me looking at, since this is your book? You got some titles here, super zoomed in.
Christian nationalism, I suppose, might be of interest, since Jay considers himself to be a Christian nationalist.
Considers himself.
Okay. Okay. Is that true, Jay?
Jay?
Now, it's as opposed to saying Jay is a Christian, Claire will say Jay considers himself or tries to be or pretends to be a Christian or something. It's a
I see. Okay.
So
But she's a Christian nationalist.
Yeah.
Are you a Christian nationalist?
I don't think so. I mean, it's quite limiting. If you have your, as we spoke about in the previous hour, if you're with God, you're with God. And when you look back at Christian nationalism, it comes across as like the empire and imperialism, and if you're following commandments like thou shalt not steal, how can you go around the world raping and pillaging? You know, so it kind of got a bad name. I mean,
they did some good and bad. I'm not one of those people who just say the British Empire was terrible. They were a stronger civilization than a lot of countries. That was sort of, you can say that you sort of evolutionary argument for them being such a big empire. They were just better and they won. There were some bad things they did as well. Like they didn't really have to steal loads of stuff. Suppose they could give them, I don't know, what the stuff they got in the British Museum, whatever. But you know what?
We're products of the British Empire.
Right. Yeah, that's true. We're here for a reason. There's no accident. That's true. Well, I'm not in London anymore. I'm talking as if I am. But yes, my family's there. My extended family, yeah.
But
that's right.
They it's like going into your neighbour's house and telling them how to live. And, you know, like what Tony Blair and George Bush did. They decided that Iraq needed democracy. And Bush more so, but they're both Christians and they both mention God. So,
yeah,
you know, it's no different to Hitler, to be honest. They've both got an idea on how other people should be and how the world, how they should be. And I'm not quite sure that
I see your point as well.
Most of it, if not, even if there was some good, they introduced them to ink, how to write or stuff like that, how to boil potatoes. I don't know. But at the end of the day, you're going uninvited into other people's territory and claiming it, and claiming that it's better for you that I'm here, and it's taken a lot. It's morally repulsive. So doing it under the name of the Christian or the British flag, it's kind of with if everybody has the same moral code, like, then people organically bond the same way as Manchester United fans.
I'm glad with this. Forget imperialism, forget the mistakes of the British, because I'm all about the positive. And now we're getting back to the positive, which is if we all had the same moral code, that would be powerful. Yeah. Maybe if it wasn't imposed, and it doesn't have to be. Some people go, "Oh no, I like my freedom. Why do we have to?" I'll tell you an example of a moral code that is so powerful, just here in Jordan, and it's actually common throughout all the Abrahamic religions, but I don't think Christians practice it much anymore. That's just saying, when you go past somebody in Islam, you are required to acknowledge them and say, "Peace be upon you." That is powerful, and it's very simple. It's like just recognizing each other. I mean, does that makes it like, imagine, like if I'm going through a street and there's a complete stranger on a van, and I will just put my hand up and smile, and they will too. Do you know what I mean? I mean, I think
it might sound a bit of a silly question, but does it not get tiresome if the street's busy?
There's a balance. I'm in a village, I suppose. No, you don't do it to absolutely every. You know, when it's really busy, then when you've got a million people, most of the million become a blur, except for the person you're walking past or something like that. So yes, you have a balance, and it is true. It's interesting. I remember. So Claire went to a Islamic festival, you can call it the Jalsa. And I previously, and she went when it was really wet. Okay, so she didn't have the same experience when I took some of my students, and it was really funny because every few seconds, some total stranger would come up to them and shake their hands, and they got really tired. And I had to teach them how to get past people without shaking everybody's hand. So there is a sort of balance that you have to develop, but you do feel connected. And, you know, in London, where you've got so many people and you can be so disconnected, I think this is incredibly important and powerful. And maybe some of these subtle things people don't appreciate. Like, I remember just going to my local station, feeling a little bit like serious. And you do feel serious if everybody is like this, you know, looking down and like zombies and miserable, right? So, and then I'm walking past, and there's an old lady on her, you know, on her front door, and she's just looking at everybody, and she smiles. She smiles at me, I smile back, and somehow you're suddenly smiling. Yeah. What I'm trying to get across is that these small things are the big things. I always say the small things are the big things, and it's really powerful. They made a whole movie about this, you know. One of the biggest blockbusters ever. It's The Blue People. What's it called? The Blue Aliens.
Alien.
No. Avatar.
Ooh.
Right? What is the song and what is the massive theme behind it? One of the greatest themes is the environmental thing, but it's not just the environment, it's connecting to the environment and connecting to each other. And there's a great song called I See You. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's like recognize the power of just recognizing and appreciating each other is completely underrated, because we have killed our inner spirituality, so we don't appreciate the stuff that actually makes us happy. We only see physical things and go, "Oh, I'll get a massive watch or an iPhone, I'll be happy." No, it's the connection that makes us happy. And I'm not making. Yeah, Johan.
Please.
Sorry, say it again.
Can I make 2 quick points?
Yes, please, go for it.
In the olden days, maybe 50s or 60s, men used to touch their hat when they used to see, Also, if people are not connected within, then and I think that's a good thing about Christianity. If they're not connected within, they'll find it very difficult to do that bonding stuff because they're very, you know what I mean? So
I totally know what you mean.
yeah,
Because when I go with I don't like naming people, say a good friend of mine, and I would say he's largely atheistic, right? It's so extreme that, so I'm going with him. We're going down all the, typical British narrow pavement. There's not much space in it, right?
yeah,
And there's two people coming along, and I'm looking straight ahead. I'm happy to look into people's faces and eyes, but that's very un-British. What he will do, he's so extreme because he's not strong inside, spiritual inside. He would literally, they're the people, he literally look the other way as if, do you know what I mean? Like, that's what we do on the tube. We do everything but look into other people's eyes.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So yes, when you're not solid, when you're hollow inside, you can't connect outside. It is important that you have that first spiritual step that gives you the strength. And I find I'm about 1,000,000 times more confident than most people. And I don't really call it confidence. It's kind of...
It's God.
It's God. That is a very
God.
simple way of doing it. Like, you
is.
lose yourself and God takes over. And it sounds all spiritual, but it's very...
No,
it's very practical.
It's actually quite New Testament, Matthew, all right,
really?
about the treasures are within and that type of stuff, and surrender to receive. I mean, it's great stuff.
100%. 100%. And it's no surprise that there's so much connection between Christianity and Islam. Like, that's what we were saying in the last stream, I think. You were saying surrender to receive, and it's a bit the idea between the idea behind the art behind you. Is that right as well?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And that's the definition of Islam. Islam means, there's two meanings of Islam, but when you can connect them, which is one meaning, like I was saying in the last stream, is to submit your will to God, and another meaning is peace. And that peace is not just inner peace, but outer peace as well. Peace with society. If you're angry inside, you're not going to be able to connect with people. You're not going to be at peace with other people. You're going to be angry with other people. Have you ever heard the phrase "hurt people hurt people"?
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. The opposite is peaceful people are peaceful to other people. Maybe something like that.
No, it's true though, but it's wisdom. I mean, what you're talking about is the key to life. And when I say prosperity and riches, I don't mean wealth, but like spiritual riches, enhancement, etc. And the externals obviously don't get that, but reaching that place within of contentment when there's nothing really going on, then that's a good place to be, and that's when you can move mountains. So there's just
and you're kind of quoting Jesus when you're saying moving mountains, right? If those
Probably,
who have an ounce of faith can move mountains, right?
Mountains is like the path to God. It's the rise up. So
okay.
When he made the Sermon on the Mountain, like
okay.
That's how I think. But if I can just comment on Effluent for you, the spiritual path is crowded with instructors. That is so true. That there's 1,000,001, and I suppose I might come across as that. But
so I clicked on that because you sound British, Effluent for you, right? British people really, I feel like that's said as a negative thing, but I'm going to say it's positive because when you were talking, you're a Christian, I'm a Muslim, you're being an instructor, I'm being an instructor, but guess what? We agree. It's not a big deal. And if somebody gives off some other vibes, you can ignore it, and it's not a big deal. And in Islam, the reason why it's not a big deal is because there's a verse of the Quran that says truth smashes falsehood. So if something's a stupid idea, in the face of truth, it will disappear anyway. You'll see it. And let there be a crowd, and the rubbish stuff will disappear by itself. But I want to get back to the topic, which is nationalism. I don't think we really left it, but we came to it another angle, which is a really important angle. There's a macro, which is, we started off with the macro idea that you need shared values and things like that. And that's really important. I talked about the one shared value is everybody says hello to each other, and then you will feel connected. Like, the reason why people don't say hello to each other is because they haven't been given permission to. And that sounds stupid and it might sound wrong, but I tell you what, have you ever seen those street parties? The British, the street parties, when every time there's a jubilee or whatever it is, the king coronation party, whatever, right?
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Well, the coronation, it feels like yesterday, right? But the point is that the most boring, self-centered, I don't know, whatever people, British people, suddenly become really social because they were given permission. That's it. Bang, it happens. That is powerful nationalism. Right? That's the macro. And then you were talking about the micro from within. Like, when you can't have that connection easily, when you feel hollow or empty inside, you feel more shy. But you know what? I think it's both ways. Like, people who don't connect normally, if they're given the opportunity and there are lovely people around them, they will connect. So I think it's a bit of both, or actually both, right? Claire, what do you think? We're talking, me and Jay been taking over, but this is your idea, kind of. This is your book. Your book is based on this. So what have you got to say?
Well, I'm just saying, all these religions are about more or less forcing people to marry before having children and staying together for the sake of the children. And for the past half century, Westerners have forgotten about this rule. So that's basically the problem. And they I guess they can't face the idea of marrying each other and having children and staying together for the sake of the children. They would frankly rather die than have to do that. This is the reality of their degeneracy. They would rather die. They would rather their civilization die than do this thing that their ancestors didn't even think twice about doing.
Yeah, I think Claire's right. Like, I think it's a valid argument she's putting forwards there. But if you'd had 20 years of the education system and social life in London, probably more extreme, then you too, possibly, all of us maybe would feel that way about marriage.
Say again. If we went to the education system.
Yeah, if we were born 20 or 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Like my daughter and her friends.
Okay.
They have been taught that the good things in life are X, Y, Z, and marriage is not one of them. And haven't changed.
Well, that's because, I'll tell you what, all the LGBT stuff, all the whatever, doesn't affect Muslims. All the anti-marriage stuff doesn't affect Muslims, but affects all the white people whose kids come home and their parents are not there. So they're 100% taught by the state. Of course.
I agree. If there was the Christianity out of the three religions is the most vulnerable and susceptible to modern forms of degeneracy. I accept that. But because
faith without works.
It's weak. It's not specific.
Because it's not the original Christianity.
It's not followed.
Because the Western Christianity is, you can have faith and you don't have to show works to prove it.
But I have been, and just when you say it doesn't affect Muslims, it does. It does.
Okay.
And yeah, I mean,
On the fringes,
Albanians
it's
are not-
to what extent they practice it or not. But I'm
Yeah.
saying on a macro level, if you look at the numbers,
you're right.
Muslims are having double the children. So yes, sure, the
Yeah.
numbers are going down and it's affected and everybody's affected this much and that much. But you can always find people on the fringes of Islam, or the fringes might be quite a big fringe,
Yeah.
but relatively it's getting the job done. Like everybody else is literally not reproducing enough, and the Muslims are reproducing enough at least, if not more, depending on who you're talking about.
hmm No, I'll go with you with that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not perfect. Nobody's perfect. I'm always complaining about Muslims as well, by the way, for different reasons. You know, there's always something to work on. Speaker's corner, they're too violent, too crazy. But yeah.
Yeah. No, I'd agree. And I mean, that seems to be a very egoic, almost violent place where everybody's trying to outpoint each other and
Yeah.
prove each other wrong or right, or and it's just ugly, isn't it? I mean, I don't even look at it. I've watched it once or twice, and me and Claire have been to one or two things there a long time ago, but yeah.
And I had the same feeling. But I think, I mean, I spent a lot of time in Speaker's Corner while I was in England. Well, I say a lot of time, 1 year straight. But before that, I thought they were a bunch of nutters. But there's a good undercurrent or community, a quieter community of thoughtful people, and it does attract people. That's how I met Claire, actually.
Yeah, well, in a way,
yeah.
likewise. I mean, I've been to mosques with Claire, and we did Kabbalah courses, so we do have shared experiences, doing stuff. So yeah.
Okay, so Jay, are you a nationalist?
Yeah.
What do you want to gain from nationalism?
Identity.
Oh yeah.
Which we don't have at the minute.
Okay.
Sorry.
Do you agree identity comes from actually having a purpose, that you stand for something?
Yeah. You represent
You can't just
something.
manufacture it. You can't just say, like the British test or whatever it was for, like my wife had to take to become a national. Yeah. These vague ideas.
I don't think it's skin color. I think it's moral code of ethics and principles and a social way of life which comes from the moral code.
Yeah. And so doesn't that conclude that you need a religion? Because you're not going to have a shared moral. I mean, like, part of the Western problem is they don't want a moral code. They want freedom.
They want the opposite of a moral code. The moral code is not to have one.
Right. And then they struggle. They're the ones, the liberals. I don't know which terminology to use, as American terminology or whatever it is. But the people who say, I want to do whatever I want, they're the people struggling most with some sort of identity. They're the ones who are like, I think I need to be a woman when I'm a man. Like something's missing.
Yeah, it's progressive liberalism. It's not a old school liberalism of a certain amount of freedom. To if you want to play football, you can go out and play. You're not going to get shot by the government, but there's a certain level of freedom, but maybe the same level of actually following a moral code. And that was a 1960s, 1950s liberal. But these days, liberals are climate change and, LGBT and all that stuff. So, yeah.
So identity is a really interesting thing, because I feel at the heart of wanting an identity is a sense of emptiness. And that's why people are desperately trying to find it again.
It's it's with myself. It's second to God. Like I believe I could come and live in Jordan tomorrow. I could go and live in Malaysia tomorrow, and it wouldn't make any difference. I think to have an identity as a country is a good thing for a lot of reasons, but it doesn't come before the relationship with your religion. That's prime. That has to be. Because it says that in the Ten Commandments, I think, about, or the Noahide laws about a jealous God, and you mustn't worship anyone before me and stuff like that. That's for our own good.
Yeah.
So you get all these nationalists screaming and shouting, and it's just I don't know whether it be skin color or views, but it's not enough to keep the country rolling, as has been proven in England.
Yeah.
And isn't it interesting how the demise of Christianity is equal to the demise of nationalism?
That's what I think. Exactly.
Yeah.
The demise of people going to the church is the same problem. There's no community left anymore.
Well, interestingly enough, and I've been really quick with this, I occasionally dip into church and I find it's terrible. It really is. Like, I've never had a pet where you go to the vet and have it put down, but going to church is like that.
Explain to me what you mean, because I might understand. Explain a bit more. Why did you feel that?
I'm the youngest there by about 20 years.
Yes. Okay, I thought you were saying that.
80.
Everybody's old, yeah?
Yeah.
That's right. That's a major problem because the young people have given up on Christianity. And let's be blunt about it. I promote people trying to get back to religion or God, right? But there is a massive problem. I would say we're being blunt here all the way through. Christianity doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because you've got a thing called the Trinity, which completely destroys Christianity. It's like you're saying 3 is 1. Doesn't make sense. And there's a whole other bunch of other things, like the universe is, 6,000, 7,000 years old and made in a week.
Yeah, I get it. A lot of it is, I get it. A lot of it is nonsense. And no doubt Claire will pipe up soon. But I believe there has to be some kind of progression within Christianity to make it sellable. If i.e., in the 1930s, there was a bunch of Christian scientists, and I follow that stuff, where I basically look at it and I take what works, like almost like an experiment. So things like the Trinity, or things like Jesus coming back to life, and that, I think it's nonsense. I think the spiritual angle of it is eternal life. And just because a person physically dies, as far as I know, Jesus might not have been ever alive. I don't know. But what I do know, is that the words, if you fully understand and get to the bottom of the words of Jesus, especially in the sermon, then everything that you spoke about on the previous stream is covered in that speech that he made. It is the root. So whether you're Christian, Islamic, or a spiritualist or whatever, it's all in there. And that's what I found works for myself. I found people at church, including some of the priests I speak to, haven't got a clue on anything. They wouldn't understand this conversation. They think it's about turning up on a Sunday at 11 o'clock, smiling, being nice to people, and that's it.
There's no thought for, because I've noticed when I listen to Christian streams, live streams, they're like, it's empty. And the reason it's empty is because they stand for nothing. So they can't commit to making any statement. Like there was a meeting when they were trying to get rid of, they were saying marriage is only for men and women. And they really struggled to say that. Do you know what I mean? So if you stand for nothing, then you can't say anything of value. because it ends up just being gibberish.
Well, there's a really good saying, or I don't know if it's in the Bible or whatever, but it's that life should follow the Bible, and instead you've got Bible following life these days.
Yeah, adapting it. Yeah. Okay, you know what? I want to give you how you can find identity. I love practical identity really quickly. All right, here we go. So I can see something on the screen. I think they meant to say, so we could promote smiling. I tell you what, you could immediately find a sense of identity. 2 things: believe in God and promote smiling. Okay, so you need a root to why you're doing something. You stand for something. There's a reason why you're doing it. I can't get away from believing in God. That gives you like a strength like no other, right? And then you say, based on that, I'm going to do one good thing. Our whole nation is going to do one good thing. And that is, we're going to smile at everybody who comes past us. And that's basically in Islamic teaching as well, by the way. There's a saying in Islam that says, Prophet Muhammad said, smiling is charity. Okay. And actually, psychologically it is, because if you smile at somebody, we're designed to replicate it on our own faces. And when we smile, we actually feel good. So it's actually charity in any sense, right? It's actually practically you transfer happiness to other people. So it's a powerful thing. Yeah, I think people would immediately find a sense of identity. Maybe it sounds crazy, but I really believe these tiny things make a difference. Any thoughts? Because we are running out of time. 2 minutes. You say something, Jay, Claire, say something, and then we'll wind up. Because I love keeping things to 1 hour, even though we don't have to.
It's a good idea, even though I would like to carry on. Claire, you go.
Could you repeat the question? Sorry.
Claire, we're talking about your book here.
Wake up, for God's sake.
Claire, okay, I'm going to make my statement. This is it. If you want nationalism, realize the small, it's going to sound stupid, but it's so important. The small things are the big things. Focus on these small values that we're going to share. They are the most powerful, and everything else will come by itself. Like, have an identity based on being lovely people, just smiling. At least have that.
Oh, right. Little things that nationalists could do to change.
I don't know. That's a question. That's my claim. My claim is the small things are the big things. Forget all the big stuff.
Yes,
just focus on the small stuff.
I think being prepared to have an honest and reasonable conversation about what's wrong, without blaming the Jews, without blaming the Muslims, would be a start. Maybe they're not capable of it. It's always, oh, it's the Jews, look what they've done to us. Oh, look at the Muslims all around us. It's that kind of attitude, and you can't shift them, because basically that is their identity. It's about whinging about Jews and Muslims. And if you say, well, maybe the Jews aren't to blame, and maybe, other things have caused the Muslims to come, that something wrong that your government did, or and they can't even talk about that. It has to be the way they say, or you're not one of them, and if you're not one of them, they're not going to talk to you. And basically they have the same problem as the liberals who are saying they're not going to talk to you unless you already agree with them. And this is a crazy attitude to have, and that is basically what they have. So I guess no problems get properly considered, because they're not here to solve problems. They're here to insist that they were right, and that's it. They're not interested in solving the problem. It's an attitudinal problem. It's a bad attitude. And they literally don't care. And as
who's they again?
it's an attitudinal. Okay, they have a bad
Who's
attitude.
who's the they that is a problem? Everybody, or what?
Nationalists in particular have an attitude problem.
Right. Forget them. They're the losers, right? They're not doing anything, right? I'm talking about how do we win?
By keeping the channels of communication open and being very patient with people, even though they appear to be hopeless cases, because even if they don't agree with you, hopefully there's somebody listening, as you probably know in Speaker's Corner, hopefully even if the person you're talking to just won't agree with you, maybe a reasonable bystander will pick up something from your exchange with the unreasonable person to form his or her own conclusion about who's
Or you
right.
could do it the way Muslims are doing it. And the easy Muslim way is you keep your, if a Muslim just keeps their values, they're the only ones who are going to be in existence in a few generations' time. And everybody else's rubbish values that don't work, they'll die out with them anyway. So you don't have to beat them. They don't have to accept your values. Their values will die with them because their values don't work practically. That's my thoughts. Jay?
I will close on what you may find controversial, but
Good.
With the 2 points about getting people to go to God, and the second point was smile, I completely agree with the first point. The second point, not at all.
About smiling. Okay, go on.
Yeah. No, that's a ritual. It's an external ritual. What I would rather do is get them to God, and as we would if we met in the street, the results will come. And over time, people smile or not. But I don't think you can do it from outside in. If you have children and they're upset, have you ever said to them, put a smile on your face? And when they're distraught? As the communication is the connection to God, and people who are in that zone, but that's all from the sermon. That's what Jesus spoke. I don't think Jesus said anything about rituals. The only thing was about praying. It wasn't like...
I tell you a ritual that connects all of humanity to this day. People go to the Kaaba. You know the Kaaba in Mecca?
No.
So
people
in Saudi Arabia, you've heard of like the phrase Mecca, right? It's a Mecca.
Oh yeah. Sorry,
yeah.
Mecca. I know
So there's
Mecca.
literally a Mecca that the Muslims have. Every Muslim has to go once in their lifetime to visit, and they circuit it. Okay. And that ritual really does bond all of humanity. Malcolm X went there a racist and came back not a racist because he saw all of humanity as brother and sister side by side. So rituals are powerful. And I would say if everybody was forced or told in London that they had to smile and say hello, I tell you, it would change London. And people will go, you know what? What the ritual will do is it will force people to do something practically and positive rather than be negative, like a lot of Londoners are. And they're always in the theory, not in the practical. Okay, doing something, being an activist in a small level.
Yeah.
But also, they would realize how powerful it is when they get a smile and a hello from loads of people. They will realize, I'm sure. I don't know how to demonstrate it, but maybe come to Jordan. We will take care of you and we'll show you around.
No, I fully appreciate that you what you're saying completely may be true. Like I don't know, but yeah, I'm open to that. And if it works, then great, do it.
You're both welcome. All right, guys. Thank you so much for your time. Hopefully people learned something. Maybe if more so, they were inspired, become more hopeful for a better future. That's what I've got to say. Thank you for your time, both of you, and everybody in the chat. Thank you very much.
Thanks for
Thanks
your
for
effort.
having
Thank
me.
you. Bye, Claire.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Bye.